Welcome to Men of the Prize, the podcast. It's Harvey. It's your host. How you doing today? I hope you had a good week. I hope you're having a good month, a good year. I hope life in general is treating you well. It's another episode where men and we're talking. And before I get started, I was thinking about, this week in this episode. And I do this because I want men to speak, to be vocal, to be emotional, be vulnerable, and to be comfortable doing it. And one thing I was thinking of, and I hate to admit it, I have these moments where I kind of get trapped in TikTok and I'm watching a video, and I watch the military videos a lot when they come home and they surprise them, and they're so nice to see. And one thing that caught me was a daughter coming home and she surprises the dad. And dad turns around and he sees his daughter, and you can see the excitement, the relief, you can see everything in his face. And he goes and he grabs his daughter. He snatches her up off the ground and he gives her the hug. And I thought about that. He's like, when we're emotional, when men are emotional, we're almost aggressive about it. When something good happens, it's like he hugged her, but he hugged her like he just snatched her up. And this emotion with us is so powerful that it can be good when expressed in a good way, but it can be bad when expressed in a toxic way. So I talk about this to remind you that it is important to be emotional in a good way. Let it out early. Don't hold it in and let it out late, because then that word comes up and we don't like toxicity here. That's not us. As usual, I am just a man with a microphone, lucky enough to talk to men talking about life. I am not trained. I can't diagnose. I can't do anything more than have this stage here for you to hear men talk, to normalize it, to make you comfortable doing it. I hope this podcast makes you comfortable enough to talk to someone, friend, spouse, colleague, a trained professional. The most important thing is not always what people say here on this podcast, but that they're saying it. Speaking is the most important thing. Men, talk, get it out. And from there we begin. I'm so lucky to have a great guest. It is Dr. Fred Moss. And you give me 5 minutes, I'm going to read this impressive bio because he's done so very much. Dr. Fred Moss arrived on Earth, by the way, I love this first sentence, arrived on Earth March 1st, 1958, and from that very second has been earmarked to be a healer. The family he was born into was in chaos and in many ways was counting on his arrival to bring health and wellness back into balance. Little Freddy had his hands full, and over the next 6 decades, he has made it his business to bring healing to the world around him, not only to his family and friends, but to the community and world at large. What a journey it's been. Dr. Fred has had a host of life experiences, including, among other things, being a 2-time college dropout and a Northwestern University Medical School graduate in 1988. Over the last 4 decades, Dr. Fred has been firmly entrenched in the mental health system, first as a child care worker and then internationally well-known psychiatrist. In addition, Dr. Fred has had leadership roles in multiple modalities, including inpatient and outpatient, homeless shelters, nursing homes, orphanages, halfway houses, drug rehabilitation centers, home visits, prisons and jails, and telepsychiatry in many regions of the USA. Let me take a breath. I'm skipping the third paragraph because I'm going to bring it back. We're going to talk about it. As the founder of the Welcome to Humanity movement and the True Voice podcasting mastermind and methodology, Dr. Fred now finds himself making the difference he came here to make. His years in the community, where he has been a physician to over 40,000 patients, and his storied and adventurous life traveling around the world has now left them uniquely qualified to remind us all of what we already know. Communication is where love arises from, and speaking truth and listening authentically are the source of that love. Dr. Fred is married to his dream partner, Alexandra, and lives in the foothills of Sierra Nevadas in Northern California. He is the proud father of 2 beautiful children in Texas and is owned collectively by his 3 cats, Valentino, Despacito, and Winston. Dr. Fred Moss, welcome to the podcast. How are you today? I can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah, it's really, really great. I wanted to be mute so I wouldn't interrupt you reading that crazy intro. But, it sounds like me is sort of what I say halfway through the intro. I'm like, oh, yeah, I did that too. And then I realized that it really is me, and that is my history. And what's really more important than that, Harvey, and I really appreciate what you led off with this with this emotionality, the realness, the feelings, like bringing that forward right from the beginning, and not treating it like a scarcity event, not treating it like you got to go steal it right now, got to go squeeze it out right now, got to go make this happen right now, got to go scream and tug on it and own it and protect it. All these male these traits that sometimes get associated with what it means to be a man, when in reality, we have the glory of being able to be men with emotions and to be able to speak these properly, to be able to, feel properly, to be able to own our experiences properly, and to step forth into communication and connection at the heart of all healing, because that's really what my bio is about. That's what I learned when I arrived on March 1st, 1958. Then I unlearned it for a little while, and then I relearned it, and then I unlearned it and relearned it. Every single day I unlearn it and I relearn it. And all that we really have left is to be to be square with each other, to be honest with each other, to be right here with each other, to own our experiences, our vulnerability, our soft underbelly, the parts of us that make us both strong warriors that can protect, our families and our communities, and weak and soft, sophisticated, delicate, sensitive human beings, because that's what it really takes to walk in this world. So thank you for the great introduction, and you read it beautifully, and thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, no problem. And I appreciate you giving me your time on doing this. It's going to be a good conversation.
I think so.
All right. So for people who listen or who haven't, if this is the first time, then welcome. The podcast is called Men Are the Prize. Prize is my favorite word. It was a word that I didn't always see associated with men. Women are the prize, we're chasing whatever. And I'm like, you know what? We men were pretty cool too. I think we should be chosen also. So I took the word prize, and I associated 4 of the letters in the word to characteristics that I think make a good man. So that's what my little mantra here is. So we start with the first letter in the word prize, and that letter is P. The word is purpose. Reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. Dr. Fred, what is your purpose?
Purpose that I have for the world is to source other people's healing through conversation, communication, creativity, and connection. Who I get to be is someone who has walked the face of the earth. I've probably lived the equivalent of 3 or 4 different lifetimes in various aspects of my life, some of which have been, just tremendous, others of which have been extremely painful. I've gone through highs and lows. There's people who have gone through highers and lowers. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I have lived a very full life, and the purpose of my life is to pour that back in and to remind people that they simply are people, and it's both simple and incredibly gorgeous to get that each and every one of us is walking through this planet with the same level of none of us really know what's coming around the corner. None of us really have a clue as to how to make our next move. And we're using our experience, our creativity, and more than anything else, our social connection to drive forth that which can leave the world better off than when we arrived. And in my way of thinking, I think the only way to do that is to source communication effectively between people. And luckily, I've been given the gifts and the credentials, as well as the experience to at least stand still in that position. I think that's what I do, is I source people's connections.
Excellent. The reason that I read your bio and I held something back, something, I thought was amazing, because I feel like it really reflects what I'm at least trying to do with this podcast. So I'm just going to bring it up, and I'm going to throw a question at you.
Sure.
So the third paragraph in that fantastic bio was, Dr. Fred has been committed to the notion that communication, connection, creativity, and conversation are at the heart of all healing, of all conditions, of all types. Without this, people simply do not heal. With it, miracles regularly occur. Voices heal, listening heals. We humans are best when we are connected to others, and Dr. Fred's life mission has now become to assure that all people know that who they are and what they do matters, and that their voice, no matter where they are from or where they are going, can be heard. I love that. I love that. And I loved it because what I said at the beginning, I think is important. Talking. I feel like a lot of times, a lot of issues, and obviously this is a podcast for men, a lot of the issues that ail us can be solved, or at least the road to solving them comes from somebody listening. We have all this, our shoulders are just heavy, our hearts are heavy, because sometimes we don't have anybody to talk to tell that I'm struggling at work, to tell when I'm a teenage boy that I wanted to make the football team, but I didn't make it, and I feel bad about myself, to tell a friend that I've been drinking too much and I don't know why. I feel like the idea of simply somebody sitting there and listening and caring is huge. So when I'm reading this paragraph, I'm like, this is the epitome of what I wanted to do. How long has this been the thing for you? Was there a moment where you're like, this is what I want to do? Did something happen where you're like, I need to do this? I need to get people on this road? How'd you get there?
I know my bio sounds like it's tongue in cheek, that somehow, I'm making it up that when I arrived on March 1st at 3:43 in the morning, 1958, that somehow I wasn't that what you're talking about. But the truth is I really was. I had to rediscover that a few times. Like, what is my value? What am I really doing? What's my purpose? What's my point? Why am I here? He does that better than me. He has more of those. He lives in a bigger house. He has a finer woman. He has more money in the bank. And, sometimes I got to ask myself, just like everyone else, like, what the hell am I doing here? What am I really doing here? And, it comes down to this, Harvey. I think that when I say I've lived a long, storied life, I've been given maximum opportunities. I'm privileged. I don't need to be embarrassed about the fact that I was born privileged. Not only am I white, not only am I a male, not only am I American, not only am I Jewish, but I'm also really smart. I am left-handed. I am hilarious. I come from a great pedigree. My two brothers, did all the frontline blocking for me to create a world that works for me. I'm a privileged soul. And I didn't have to register for the war. I never went to war. I never went to the military. There's many things I didn't do, and my life has been entirely blessed. And for me to deny my privilege would be an absolute error, an untruth, and it would be an embarrassment for me to feel like I need to be embarrassed about my privilege. It's just a data, dude. It's just a data. So when I walk through life, one of the things that I'm a doctor. Truly am. I'm an MD. I graduated Northwestern University, 1988, Chicago, Illinois, got my degree, got my residency, my fellowship, Dr. Fred Moss. That's not what created what you're looking at here, though. That was actually a sideshow. That was actually, in many cases, a speed bump. That what got in the way. That was what took away from who I was right before I went to medical school, which was a child care worker, and who I was right before that, which was a 2-time college dropout, and who I was right before that, which was a drug-using teenager from Detroit, Michigan. That's really who I am. And when the truth comes down to it, I can learn all these complexities. I could write articles. I could put myself in a journal. I could write case studies. I could probably make up new theories and all that. But the truth is, when did I learn that I was, sourcing communication as a core purpose of being here in life? March 1st, 1958, 3:43 a.m.
I hear you. It's what you've always been meant to be.
Sometimes I veer away thinking that I'm supposed to go do something more different or more better, but it's not more better or more different. In the bottom line, next week, there's a psychiatrist. I'm not going to name him because I have such dear respect for him. I'm a psychiatrist, and I'm, pretty well known. It's all good. And this guy is probably the most well-known psychiatrist in the United States right now. And he's going to be in our men's group next week. He's speaking at our men's group next week. I just learned that this morning. And he's done mega work in the world of psychiatry. And he's known for it. And you know what? It's not the work I do. The work I do doesn't come in journals. It's not publishable in journals necessarily. For me to tell everybody here's what you need to do. You need to look at that person across the screen from you, or that person across the hall from you, or that person across the table from you, or that person across the counter from you. And you need to realize that you and them are exactly the same person, and that neither of you know what the hell's going on. And both of you have the collective consciousness of eons of people that have lived before us, as well as the purpose and a general notion that what you want to do is the right thing moving forward. Each of us generally want to do the right thing moving forward. Now, we have different definitions of what the right thing is moving forward. So can we be curious? Can we be interested? Can we get to the space that even when we know that we know something, that's when we become even more dangerous. We don't know anything, and then we don't even know the stuff we know, and especially the stuff that we know that we know. We definitely are dangerous about that shit. And when we can drop that and really get that what we're doing here makes no sense whatsoever, stop depending on sense. What really is available is intercommunication, like what's happening. You know, I'm falling in love with you right this very minute. And I suspect that's happening in reverse. And it's what's happening here are two men just freaking digging in and bringing something from the underneath, something from the underbelly, something to bring us forward to really looking at what's the real deal here. I don't want to hear about all this stuff that I can't understand and I need to go into encyclopedias just to read word after word to understand. I really want to know what's it mean to be a human being. And one of the things it means to be a human being is to respect another human being for them not knowing what it means to be a human being either.
I like it. I like it. I like the phrase human being because I've talked to a lot of men and, we get a lot of words and phrases and, things, cliches and such. I like the idea of a human just being, that I'm just here. There's really nothing more to it. I'm just a human and I'm being here. And I feel like that's kind of what it is. We get through all the other crap and we get down to the basis of just face-to-face talking and listening and understanding or trying to understand what somebody else is going through. Right. So I like that conversation. Did you, and let me rephrase. Obviously, this has been who you've been your entire life. But growing up, did you have somebody like you, for you?
That's a really great question. There's one guy that comes to mind, but let me see about before I go there. Life was rough. Life was rough for a while there. When I turned around 13, I had a rough year. We could talk all day about 1971, and it was a rough year where I had my life got spun around. I had to redesign what this 13-year-old was going to be like. So there was a few role models, I guess I could say, that came out of that in the next several years. So Bruce Springsteen was really important to me. I saw Bruce Springsteen before I even knew who he was, and I was an audiophile. I went to a concert because somebody's mother told us that this is the next Bob Dylan. We should go see him. I never even heard of Bruce Springsteen. I spent the next 4.5 hours at Hill Auditorium in Ann Arbor, completely mesmerized with the best presentation of a man being a man I had ever seen. I had never experienced a dude. He was right from Asbury Park. He was coming. He wasn't anybody yet. He didn't even fill this 4,000 seat stadium. There's only 2,000 people in there. And I saw a man right through Bruce Springsteen. I was like, dude, thank you. It was deep, dude. I'm not kidding. So I would first say Bruce Springsteen was like one of my first hitters. I've never answered that question online with Bruce Springsteen, but anyways, it's the truth. Then there was a bunch of NBA players that I really liked, and we could go back to the 70s NBA, I grew up in Michigan, so 60 miles north in Lansing, Everett, a guy named Magic Johnson is playing basketball. And I really watched him from 9th grade, 10th grade. He's my peer. He's my dude. I am like, whoa. And so I love the NBA, and the NBA had a lot of people that were kind of breaking through and learning how to be men and be how to team players, team players. And whether it was the Celtics or the Sixers or the Lakers, it didn't really matter, or the Knicks, it didn't really matter, but I had a general love for the hottest NBA players. ultimately, you know, I had it that I was going to have to be a doctor. I was just thinking about this last night, you know, that somehow, some way, somewhere, you know, pulling strings or something, I was going to find my way to being a doctor. And of course, I did eventually do that. And that came at a pretty huge life cost. But when I was at the University of Michigan my first year, we did this thing. We did I guess it was an extracurricular activity where we went to the local prison, adolescent prison, forensic unit in Ypsilanti. And there was a dude there who reminds me of me now. And I think that's what I take this question. This guy created something called PPP, positive peer culture, positive peer pressure. And what it was, and there's all sorts of groups like this now, is groups of 3 in 3 groups, therefore 9. So like using gang mentality to have these kids grow up with a sense of camaraderie with each other, with a sense of community. The same gang mentality. When good things happen to one of us, they happen to all 3 of us. When good things happen to, when bad things happen to one of us, they happen to all 3 of us, and maybe all 9 of us. Like just getting the gang aspect and building community into the gangsters. These were real gangsters. I mean, that's who was there. And it was like, I could do that. I would love to create a rehab for kids who have gone sideways for a minute. By that time, I had already gone sideways for a minute. And I thought, hey, I could do that. I would love to get through medical school, get my degree, get my credentials, get my power, and continue to have this passion and then make a difference for kids who had gone sideways. So I don't even remember that man's name, but he's the answer to this question.
Okay. So that man had obviously an amazing effect on you. And, you know, his name isn't what's important, but his effect is, and that's good to hear. So let's keep it moving. The next letter in the word prize is R. The word is resilient. The capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. So life is just a series of events. Can you think of a particular situation, something that happened in your life where you discovered a resilience that maybe you didn't know you had?
There's a lot to choose from here, Harvey. Yeah, it really is. I got it, man.
Pick anyone. Pick anyone.
I think I'm going to pick 2006. I could pick 1971. We could go back there into my hood in 1971. Y'all got to understand that there's plenty there. And little 13-year-old Freddy learned all about resilience in 1971, really. But let's go 25 years. I guess it's 35 years into the future in 2006. And there were several things going on there. My divorce was getting set up. We were almost done. I had some back surgery that started off in January and was completed in May. I got challenged by the medical board for something that had actually occurred in 2002, which I eventually got through, but that was like the biggest ordeal of my life. And I'm going to get back to that in just a moment. I also had my daughter's bat mitzvah, which was scheduled for December, and that I was the one who was going to have to plan. And there was something else as well. I forgot. There were 5 things. I think I know the 5th one, but it's all right. 5 major things going on. The board challenge, the challenge from the medical board and the Ohio Medical Board, was about a DUI that I had gotten in 2002. And for whatever reason, they came at me guns blazing, witch hunting. They came at me blowing the doors down, even though what they didn't know is that by that time, I was fully 4 years clean and sober. But they thought that wasn't going to be the case, but they're wrong. If I was one thing, I was clean and sober. That's how clean and sober I was. This was not like an accident to be clean and sober. This is like, dude, are you actually challenging whether or not I'm clean and sober? Because I only know one thing about myself, and that is that I'm clean and sober. You can check my hair, what's left of it. You can check my saliva. You can check my pee. I'm clean and sober. And the board came at me. It did. Came at me ruthlessly. Yeah, and there was attorneys involved, and there was it wasn't clear that I was going to win. It wasn't clear that I wasn't going to go down in a big heap of trouble. And what's really interesting about this moment, Harvey? Again, I don't think I've ever said, now that I'm no longer doing conventional psychiatry, I can actually speak to this truth with some degree of impunity, because I don't have to worry about this shit so much anymore. I'm 64 years old. What are you going to do? Want to take my license away? Whatever. My defense during 2006 for the board was the truth. There was no spin doctoring. We never altered the truth. Never. Even though I could lose, never touched the truth. Every morning I wake up in just streaming tears. I will have spent the whole night emailing and trying and creating and doing this. And all I had for my defense was the goddamn truth. I've worked in prisons. I've worked in jails. I've been in Pelican Bay and Folsom State. I hang out a little bit. I'm not a fugitive. I'm not an ex-felon, but I know how to play in the streets a little. And it's not often that someone gets to lean on the truth as their defense system. You got to spin at least one fact. You get caught with a jackknife in your glove box, you better come up with a story on why that jackknife was there, even if that's all you got. This is the deal. This is how it got there. This is how it got there. This is what happened. During that time in my dark fantasies, I was concerned. I was concerned not only would I lose my license, maybe my family, maybe my freedom, maybe all sorts of things. Who knew what the hell was going to come out in this freaking witch hunt? I was pretty embedded in AA at the time. And so, each night I'd go to meetings and I'd hear people talking, and they'd have stories that were even deeper than, this is a problem of luxury. If the medical board is after your doctorate degree, that's a little bit of a problem of luxury compared to some people. And it always kept me grounded. And on the way through, of course, here I am, right? Here I am. It's, what is it? 16 years later, I'm rocking it. Coming through that eye of the needle, sometimes blind, sometimes faith, sometimes just hope, sometimes despair and fear, terror. And then walking on, it is from 2006 forward that's became when I became a healer. Ultimately, that's when I decided I'm not doing this doctor shit anymore. I'm going to be a healer now. And it was the shakeup in 2006. It was the deep pain and threat in 2006 that then created the man on the other side that you all get to see now, which is much more, as you can hear, I'm not stuttering. You don't hear me stuttering much. And this is just a deal, dude. And this is just the same deal. Do you get it that if me and you would have met in third grade, this is the same conversation we would have had? Maybe slightly different words, but if we were to meet in third grade, this is the same thing. That's because it really hasn't changed. And so through resilience, I get to align with myself and be that guy that I came here to be, or at least continue to strive to be that guy. As recently as this morning, I'm with that men's group. That men's group is high powered, whoa, there are some people in that group that you've heard of, like I hang out with this crazy, powerful group of men. I'm like, and I can get imposter syndrome in that setting. But the truth is, this is what the deal is right here. This is it. Connection, creativity, conversation, communication. It's the heart of all healing. You got something better than that, go do it.
I hear you. I like resilience. I think it's an important word, but the more I talk to men and the more different versions of resilience I hear, the more I appreciate it. Sometimes it's just something really bad that happened, and how'd you deal with it? Sometimes it's something minor that happened and how you dealt with it. Sometimes it's easy as I have a plan. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to go to medical school. I'm going to do my residency, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to marry this girl when I'm 30, blah, 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 kids, whatever. And it's just something as simple as I didn't get in to the medical school I wanted to. And then all of a sudden your plans change and we don't know how to handle it. And all of a sudden, all the things that we thought are going to happen don't happen. And I don't know what to do. And I got all this emotion and I'm trying to deal with it. So resilience, I feel like it's a good word to show how you're living your life and how you're able to handle it. And just, I guess, your level of emotional maturity. So I think it's a good word. We're going to skip the I. We're going to come back to it, I promise. The next letter is Z. The word is zeal. I love zeal. I love that word. Enthusiastic devotion. And I think I know the answer, but I just like hearing you say it. What are you enthusiastically devoted to?
Yeah. Look, I don't know if you know the answer. And, it's the easy answer, of course, is something like mental health or something like, opening the spheres for people to actually communicate together. When I talk about this men's group in the morning, this Metal International, which if our listeners want to check it out, you can. You got to be invited there. You got to come up with a meta. I'll be glad to talk to any of your listeners later on if anyone's interested. It's a really remarkably beautiful group of heart-centered, urgently accountable men that are circulating around the globe and actually doing great things. I'm also part of Mankind Project. I did a New Warrior Training Adventure and have an I group that I'd created. And so we meet weekly. And this is also, it's called the Intercontinental I group because there's people from Hungary and England and US and other countries that are in this I group. And then I've also done some work inside Landmark Education, Landmark Worldwide, where, we, again, growth and development is really important in that particular sector. I think what's really here is there's the zeal. Yesterday I was speaking to a podcaster that I imagine that I'm going to be creating some business relationship with because I teach True Voice. So the brand I'm working with now is called True Voice Podcasting. And True Voice, I just wrote a course. It's got 6 modules, 18 lessons, 54 prompts, 22 videos, 60-page workbook. It's got, you get access to the community and you get access to mastermind and you get all my previous courses archived. It's really like my opus. Like I finally am delivering something that's y'all getting some serious value here. So thank you and you're welcome. Thank you and you're welcome. And I spoke with him yesterday, and at the end of the conversation, he says, we got to work together. That's right, we do. And I am really looking forward to what he designs. Yeah, I'm going to listen to him. I'm going to be coachable. I'm going to be listening. And I let him know, the last thing I said, your deal with me is you need to capture if I become overzealous. Because I have a tendency to go chasing. I have a tendency to be that guy who hugs my daughter, like the guy you talked about. To just go fucking get it. Go get it just because I can. Go get it. And so zeal on the one hand has to be counterbalanced by purpose and resiliency. In some ways, having the passion is one thing and having zeal is another, but overzealousness is sort of like what you described with his dad and his daughter. And I have to be a little bit careful not to be too overzealous. On the other hand, if I stay like I'm doing right now, I think I'm doing all right in this particular conversation. This is contagious. Being passionate, being zealous, having zeal, having a zest for life is, I think it's in communication. I want to be curious. I want to be compassionate. I want to be accepting. I want to be forgiving. I want to be a good man. I want to be honest. I want to have integrity. I want to fight for what's important. I want to always forget that I thought I knew something. All of that. And I know what things land on the positive side of. I can list, like if you give me a list of 200 verbs, 200 adjectives, I'd have no problem telling you which ones are good people and which ones are people I don't want to be. I know how to, I can list 100 of those things. And I really would like to live a life where it's meaningful and where I'm making a difference and where I don't bend and break in the face of, adversity.
Okay. The final letter in the word prize, in terms of the spelling, the letter is E and the word is expectation.
Expectation.
A strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future. I have different ways of asking this question. Sometimes I just want to ask and keep it simple. What do you expect of yourself in a year or in 5 years or in 10 years? But I like, since communication is such an important part of what you do, I want to ask you this. What should somebody expect from you when they have a conversation with you? What are they getting?
Yeah, what they're going to get is they're going to get their life changed in that first conversation. Look, I'm not going to be very tolerant of you not delivering your truest self when you're in my presence. And it's okay if you don't think you can do it, or even if you're not planning on doing it, or even if you don't know that you're not doing it. But where I am is I'm really digging into a reality here. I'm digging into a reality of, again, I don't, it's not a matter of being blown away. It's not a matter of, whoa, what a conversation with Fred. No. Let's just get down to business. So let's get down to what's important. No reason not to have a ton of fun, by the way, a ton of fun. This idea of important versus fun, screw that. Real important, real fun, same time. And, what does love look like? What does toxicity look like? What does reality look like? What's important to you? You like petunias? I want to know more about petunias then. Do you like scrambled eggs? I want to know more about scrambled eggs then. Like, can I be curious enough to deliver this level of passion so that people can count on me to come through me and find, as a result, their own true voice? Can we take a deep dive into true voice together so that in your presence with me, I give you access to a deeper sense of your core message than what you otherwise might have found had you just been banging along by yourself? And I'm scared for the world. And again, anyone who's not scared for the world, I don't even know how you could not be scared for the world right now. It's a scary ass world out there. And here's the thing. It's not COVID. It's not climate change. It's not racism. It's not sex trafficking. It's not even war. And it's not the Supreme Court. It's none of those things. The greatest threat in this world is that we are no longer speaking our true voice to each other. We are collectively choosing to mute ourselves so that we don't get ostracized or dismissed or disregarded or canceled. Or sometimes we're actually saying things we don't even believe. What? How did we get there? What makes you think it's okay to say anything you don't believe? When did you decide to cross that line? When did you decide that that's the best thing to do? Because that's where the breakdown happens here. That's where the breakdown of everything. And why is that the most important threat? Because all those things I just named, which every single one of them alone is shatteringly threatening to all of humanity, we're not going to get past any of them. We're not going to get past COVID or climate or racism or sex trafficking. We're not going to get past any of that if we can't speak our true voice. That can come through vocality like we're doing now. It can come through creativity, art, music, dancing, singing, drama, cooking, writing, gardening, those kinds of things. That's from my first book, by the way, Creative 8, which I'll bring up forth. And the idea is, if we're around in a year, I guess I hate saying that. Shit, man.
Yeah. It's the problem. Yeah, it's true. You don't want to think that way. I'd like to keep it positive, but we are going in some real questionable directions. Little things that I can't even imagine I would have. I'm 47. I'm younger than you, obviously, but things are happening. Decisions are being made. Stuff is being said that I'm surprised to hear, which is what it is. It's the world that I live in. It's the world that I see. I have a question for you. You mentioned something. So you deal with people and you want people to use their true voice. Mm-hmm. How can you tell when somebody's not using their true voice?
Yeah, that's a great question too. Great questions, Harvey. You know it. You know it. Just like if you're drinking beer with alcohol or not. You know it. Your body knows it. You know when someone, now the truth is you've fallen for some lies. There's some good liars out there. You've fallen for some good lies. You've heard some untruth and thought they were true. You've heard some untruth being told from people who knew that they were untruths while they were telling it to you, and you still believe them. There are some good liars out there. In order to be a good liar, you know what you have to do? You have to be so in tune with the truth to be a good liar, because you have to make your story better than whatever the truth is. The truth is your competition when you're a liar. The truth is how things really went, or how things are really going. The lie is something that's even more believable or acceptable somehow than the actual truth. So how do you know when someone's hanging with you? There is a level of authenticity and resonance as us humans have with each other. My guess is, and I am coming pretty naked from the hip in this morning's conversation, is there's not a part of you that's wondering, I wonder if the dude is really like that.
Not at all.
Right? Like you're not, I wonder if he's make this shit up for the conversation. I don't think so. I don't think so. But you also know there's a dark side of me that isn't going to be able to say this. In a different day, you might catch me in a place where I can't speak to this level of strength. That's also me. So there's a tuning fork, if you will. You know, when you're being authentic, I catch up with you. And you know what else I can tell? Let's say you had a completely different view on a particular topic. You know, have you heard there's people out there with different views on topics? Have you heard that? Yes. I think I've seen it. Some of us have seen that recently. I know that if that person is speaking his truth authentically, or hers, his or her truth from authentically, I have a likelihood of being able to listen to them, even if what they're saying is diametrically opposed to my opinion on a particular topic. It is not their content that makes them truthful. It is their presentation, this being thing that you said. It is in the presentation. And when that lands, man, it's like, it's just game on, you know, it's like, you know, it's sort of, I feel like it's flow state, or it's what, you know, what Jordan must have felt in some of the, you know, it's like what Tiger Woods feels. It's like, when that game's on, you just watch those guys, you know, just watch them play. And there's a resonance and a flow state. There's nothing false about when Tiger was Tiger, you know, there's nothing false. Those shots he took, they weren't false. They weren't cheat. They weren't lies. They weren't inauthentic. They were flat out brilliant gifts from the heavens. And that's what we are. We open ourselves up as a vessel, and then through that, we can resonate with what is the grander truth. When all of our bones and all of our cells are resonating with another person, what else are you going to do? You might be falling for a lie, but that's all we have is our intuition of that resonance with the tuning fork of our humanity.
Okay. What do you think is easier? I think we live a lot of our lives and maybe we've gotten to the point where we don't speak our truth. And it seems like it's you're coming to somebody and you're getting them to speak the truth, to speak their truth. Is it easier to just not speak our truth and just kind of say what society expects us to say and just kind of stay with the status quo? Or to maybe talk with somebody like you, find out what our true voice is and speak it? Is it easier to just do what everybody else says, or to make the journey to get our own voice and then be man or woman enough to speak it? Is it easier to just stay there or to go and do something more? What do you think?
All right. So because you used the word at least 5, if not 6 times, I'm going to take off on this word easy. And is it easier? Yeah, it's easier. Is it easier to be dead than alive? Yeah, it is. You know, no more responsibilities, dude.
Valid.
You know, no more accountability, no more mistakes. You don't have to hurt anybody ever again. You don't have to like disappoint people. There's a lot of easier. Yeah, it's easier. Just shut up. Just shut up and let the shit happen. And they don't talk. So why do you have to talk? Why do you got to be the one to open up your mouth when, in fact, if you open up your mouth, this group might ostracize you or make fun of you or disregard you or throw you off the island? Why do you got to be the one to talk like that? Is it easier? Yeah, sure. It's definitely easier. Is it easier to sit on your ass or go run a 440? You tell me which is easier.
That's it.
I mean, it's easy. It's not hard. That's not a hard question. This word "easy" is the question. Is the point here. Now, here's what I'm going to say about this, Harvey, because this is what I'm finding is that people know that when they're not speaking up and time goes by, they should have said something and they didn't, or in slightly worse case, when they're actually saying things that they are not aligned with, which I know how to do. You know how to do it too.
Yes, sir.
We're not above that. You've said shit you didn't agree with. You have said, isn't that just it's astonishing that you would ever do that.
I know.
It's like, yeah, but you know what? We've learned that being someone different than we are actually pays dividends. When it really comes down to it, give me the point of the question one more time so I can hit this. Sorry about that.
No, the question I have, is it easier? Because that's the word.
Easier. Yeah. So of course it's more difficult. But you know what? No one ever, hey, look, you want to die with that song still in you? You want to get through this life without anyone ever actually knowing who you were? Okay. All right. Let me know how that goes. When we meet together at St. Peter's, you let me know. How did that go being somebody different than who you are? And so you tell me how that went. So yeah, it ain't easy. And there's the other thing I want to say about True Voice, which is True Voice is not about speaking your damn mind every single second. It is not. True Voice includes this thing you already referenced, this thing about listening. You have to listen for where the conversation needs to go. You have to, you got to be listening for where is your proper input. Where is it time for you to be silent? Where is it time to you just to sit still? Where is it time for you to speak finally into what's being said, asked of you? That takes creativity. That takes authenticity. That takes beautiful listening. That is the magic ingredient of True Voice, is listening. The magic ingredient of True Voice is listening. Listening is not what you do in between the times that you speak. Listening is the fuel that will guide you to speak your truth. Who are you with? What are the circumstances? What's being called for? What needle needs to move forward? These are questions that men, much more than women, can ask themselves. What do you got to say? What do you got to say about that? And yeah, it's easier, but sit by the sidelines a little bit longer and let me know how this future went for you.
That's it. Yeah. It's easy to just kind of let stuff happen instead of trying to make things happen, just kind of sitting in the background instead of being a part of it. Inaction can be easier than action.
The ninth man on the bench, he gets a ring. He played 3 minutes a game. He gets a ring. I don't mean to make fun of that guy. There's some great ninth men, but is it easier to sit on the bench or is it easier to go out there and play 40 minutes?
Easier to watch.
For sure.
Easier to watch.
For sure.
But it's more fulfilling to be out there and to do something.
For sure.
That's the key.
And you know what? You might go 4 for 16. So what? So what? You might have 9 turnovers. So what? You might have lost the game. The dude might have beat you on the last shot. All right. Welcome to humanity.
Exactly. The last letter or the middle letter in the word prize is I. And I don't associate the I with the word. I associate it with the man. So when I'm talking to men, I'm asking all these questions. So we're talking about purpose, resilience, zeal, expectation. So I like to do something different. At your core, I'm taking all this stuff off. So you're not a doctor, a father, a husband, a clinician, anything else. You're not any of those other things. When it is just you, Fred, who are you?
I love the who are you question. That's the question I ask in my podcast, called the 9-letter stunning question. Who are you? And when I'm not all those things, which I'm not any of them actually, it's hard. I think there's curiosity. It's hard for me to disregard curiosity. I'm curious. And I'm fun. Like I like fun. Might as well be pleasurable. Loving. Like, will you let me love you? Can I learn to love this? I'm just little Freddy, you know. I'm just little Freddy, you know. Y'all serve me up a bunch of horse shit and ask me to stay little Freddy. Fuck you all.
I love your answer. There's no wrong answer to that. You are who you say you are. That's good. I love it. Here's a question that I have, and I'm trying to veer it back to talk about men specifically. One thing that I like in communication is why I love talking with you, because you really mirror what I try to do here. And I've always thought that men want to be vocal. We want to talk. We want to tell people what's going on. We don't want to hold it all in. And for me, I feel like we don't have access to it. And what I mean by that is I don't have a person that I feel comfortable enough to tell what's going on. And the more I talk to men, I learn two things. One, we don't think about ourselves enough. We don't self-soothe. So that's going to be a question for you in a minute. We don't self-soothe. And two, we don't think enough about our value to recognize when we got to get it out and who to do it to. So my question is this, and I'm sure you do. Taking away family, you can keep your spouse if it fits. Do you have a person in this world who, if you did something stunningly stupid, ridiculous, like it makes no sense, and we're human, we all do it, something really dumb that you could pick up the phone and say, hey, I just did something really dumb, and I don't know why I did it, and I don't know why. Do you have a friend who you could call, I did something stupid, who would listen to you, agree with you that it was dumb, but in a good and a constructive way? But when you were done with that conversation, you knew you'd be okay?
Right. Yeah, I have, I think 2.5 people that are that. And it's my wife across the board until I would do something dumb, like where I couldn't tell her. Like if, you know, so I think we're beating around the bush here of what one of those dumb things. Like I wake up next to somebody, I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Exactly.
You're here? Now what the fuck am I gonna do?
Exactly.
Like something like that. or I hurt some dude, you know, I like really hurt some dude on purpose. And then I'm like, wow, I just destroyed some dude. Something like that. But, you know, sleeping with another woman or something that, you know, I think that's what, when you talk really dumb and a man speaks, sometimes that's what you're really kicking around. So Alexandra would be that woman, and frankly would also be that woman for this ultimately. I have the best man. I have the best woman in the world. And you know, 75 candidates later, that's who I have. We got 74 broken-hearted relationships that preceded this that were beautiful, each and every one of them, but breaking up, I broke up with all 74 of them or some number like that. So there's that. But I have a beautiful, beautiful woman who this is what we're built on, and frankly would be able to tolerate and be with anything that I did or didn't do, as long as it's just earnest, you know. Then I got my good bud Sam, and my good bud Sam is he is the Zen warrior. That's where you'll find him, zenwarrior.com. And dude is just from heaven, and he understands this stuff more than me, or at least as much as me. And if I did something really, really, really stupid and horrible, including to him, around him, through him, I am quite certain that there's nothing I could throw at him that he wouldn't be able to absolutely get how stupid it was and continue to love me at the very highest level. And vice versa, that I love Sam Morris, and I love Alexandra Isievich.
That's good. We men don't all have that. We don't have that
man.
vessel, that person that we could comfortably just cry in front of or on the phone with, who we could just drop it all at their feet and know that it's a safe place. So I'm glad that you have that.
Well, you know what I would say to this, Harvey, and I you're right. And part of my twirling and spinning and reeling, and moving from city to city, or woman to woman, or job to job, or country to country, all those things that I've done in this full life of mine, I would say it was in search of Sam and Alexandra. Like if I could just get fucking Sam, so I didn't even know the name, dude, but if a Sam could show up, or, and the same thing with women, eventually it'd be like, you know what, I can't spend the rest of my life with you, so I got to go now. And that's a painful decision, but I made it way too many, one would say way too many times. This is my third marriage. And it's just true. I was hoping and praying and wishing that someday something like Alexandra would fall in my life. And lo and behold, 60 years later, there she is. It's like, okay. You know how we started, by the way? I had never met a person more irritating than Alexandra the day I met her. And it was so interesting. And I mean that. I had never met anybody that pissed me off so immediately like she could. And I was the same for her. She had never met anybody more irritating than me. And we just started exploring that together because it was so phenomenal how much we disliked each other on initiation, that we started exploring. And now, now that we're the proud students of Valentino, Desposito, and Winston.
I like those cat names, by the way. Those are awesome. Two last questions. What are you afraid of that you cannot control?
The rest of humanity going off, just the violence and chaos that could be induced with one flip of a switch right now, and then the rest of humanity just going off. I don't think I have as much control over that as I wish. I can only stay me for so long. And I guess I'm, another part is like, could I go off? Could this actually go in such a way that I become one of the bad guys? So, but that one is something I think I can control. The thing I can't control is the humanity around me finally getting switched to the point where they just go into full mayhem.
What are you afraid of that you can control?
My power and my sexual energy, my power in the community, my abuse of my privilege. I'm afraid of abuse of my privilege. I'm afraid of getting so, like, if all of a sudden I had $1 million and 1 million followers and and locked in, and women throwing their panties at me and shit, would I really be able to deal with that? Would I, or would I get to be a self-serving hedonistic asshole like the people that I'd see who get that happening to them and then fall into that? I could see how that would be attractive. I'm afraid of that somehow getting so comfortable on, and I don't think it's going to happen in this lifetime anymore, Harvey, just to tell you the truth. But if it were to happen, what about abuse of power? I think that's my biggest fear. Abuse. I have tremendous power. not only the power that like little Freddy thinks he has, but the power bestowed on me by the universe, like Anne is MD, for instance, which all of a sudden is like, people give a shit that I'm an MD. That's just hilarious. It's just hilarious, dude. I'm not kidding. I got an MD, and so therefore you're going to listen to me. You're hilarious. That's what I got to say about that.
The last question, and this has been a great conversation, so thank you, Doctor.
Yeah.
When I was doing this podcast, and I feel like to a degree, this podcast was something I made for me, talking to myself with every episode.
Yeah.
So for the men who are listening, who are confused, who are kind of stuck, who this last year or two, they wanted to do things, but they kind of they got off track. COVID came and they were stuck at home and they didn't get to do what they wanted. I didn't get the job I wanted. I didn't get the girl I wanted. Life has kind of thrown things my way and I don't know what to do. And I just feel, I feel lost. I have low self-esteem and I need to go forward. What would you tell to a man like that right now?
Yeah. In 2015 or 16, I developed this, what later became my brand. It was this somehow it got attached to me, this idea of welcome to humanity. That there's something about welcome to humanity, like, even Siddhartha told us this was going to be that way. I mean, he sat under a tree for a while and he still there's going to be misery, you're going to have to deal with misery. And one space to help decrease that level of discomfort might be in the world of creativity. So again, art, music, dancing, singing, drama, cooking, writing, gardening, cleaning, photography. Ultimately, there's an 11th one. So there were 8 when the book was written, and then 2 more, and then 1 more that's the trump card of the thing, which is being of service or helping anybody do anything. If you can get out of the poor me situation, even once a day or once a week, and just go help somebody do anything. Go help somebody do anything. I don't even care what it is. I don't care if it's even bad shit. Just go help them do something. Then you'll start to see that there is, that we're in this together. That there's, sorry you didn't get your girl. Sorry you didn't get your job. Sorry you lost that person out of your family or that friend, or maybe someone died, or or you got sick, or I'm really, I think Charles Eisenstein says it. It's like you delay death. You don't save lives. All saving lives is delaying death, because you're not saving any lives. There's no lives being saved here. Your death is inevitable. So you're not really saving lives. So the point is that you can walk through this world with your essence and connect, find who can, when you ask somebody else about what's going on with them, and then you're truly curious with open ears about what it is that they have to say, you create a space for them indeed to do that back to you, such that authenticity becomes the flavor, the backbone, the backbeat of the game. And from there, the possibility of unification and then of healing is given an opportunity, to arise. So connect when you can, but if you're not ready to connect, do something creative. And if you're not ready to do something creative, then go help somebody do anything.
Like that. I like that. And with that, thank you so very much for this conversation. Where can people find you? Where can they connect with you? Social media, website, wherever. Where are you, sir?
Yeah, so there's a few places. I think this True Voice course is a really cool course. It's unfolding and bigger. It's finally coming through like an avalanche. So that's going to be the first place I send people now. TrueVoicePodcasting.com. We're looking for a few people right away, actually, to get the course at half price. And then with the whole commitment to just feedback, like let us know what works and what doesn't work about this amazing course. Half price is a smoking deal, by the way. And so you can find that at truevoicepodcasting.com. I have a book. I know the book title is going to shock you. It's called Find Your True Voice. And that book is called Find Your True Voice. You can find that at findyourtruevoicebook.com, findyourtruevoicebook.com. And I will send your listeners a copy of that book and even pay for shipping if they really want to take a deeper dive into what this methodology is about. I can be found on what, my website is welcometohumanity.net. It's still going through a couple late minute changes to update me because I'm really in the next phase of my life as this Dr. Fred True Voice guy. And doesn't quite reflect perfectly on the Welcome to Humanity site, but it's welcometohumanity.net. But you can always email me at drfred@welcometohumanity.net. I play around probably way too often on Facebook. I dislike Facebook immensely for lots of reasons, but I am there and I have a reasonable following there. So you can find me on Facebook and then LinkedIn. And then my team is teaching me how to TikTok. And, I'm 64 years old. So I got shit to learn about why TikTok makes any sense at all.
I'm with you on that.
I mean, some people think it's the coolest. I'm like,
my daughter thinks it's the best thing that ever happened. She's 12 though. So.
Right. Being 12 and being 64. And I mean, I believe it. I actually believe that TikTok will work for me someday because my team tells me you're going to be great on TikTok. I'm like, okay, let me know when that happens,
I will put all of that in the episode notes so that people can find you. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Your energy, your enthusiasm. I can't help but be inspired by talking to you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Thank you. There's no higher honor to that exact. Look, that's what being a man is. You don't even have to remember one piece of information that I blurted out of my mouth. It is not that creates our relationship or creates manlyhood. It is this energy, this enthusiasm, this zest, this purpose, this resiliency, this expectation, this all of this, that is what creates this man in us. You didn't ask me about my political views on particular issues that we might disagree with. You don't give a shit. You don't really give a shit. You don't. It's not like you're a bad guy. You're a great guy. You don't give a shit about that. You just care that there's a human over here and that works for you.
Yes, sir. So true. So true. I like that. Brass tacks. I'll take that. All that other stuff is extra. The person is what I'm interested in.
Exactly.
And that's the best. Thank you to everybody who's been watching and listening. Another great episode. Thank you to Kristen McGriff, who does my intro and my outro. Smooth voice to get it started, even smoother to end it. Thank you for listening to Men Are the Prize, the podcast where your inner monologue is revealed. I'll see you next week. Have a great week.